What do you say to 3 shillings? And we forget the name.
Even though Pirates of the Caribbean 5 was pretty disappointing for fans, the post-credit scene actually set up an exciting future for Pirates of the Caribbean 6. Here's everything we know about how the 5th movie secretly brought back Davy Jones and what that could mean for the next one. Let's jump right in. It's been a while since the Pirates franchise has given fans something to get excited about. While the original trilogy was well received, the 4th and 5th movies lost their charm by sidelining the supporting cast and focusing too much on Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow. This shift led to poorer reviews for the 4th film and disappointing box office numbers for the 5th. Since Dead Men Tell No Tales came out in 2017, the franchise has been pretty quiet. Although producer Jerry Bruckheimer has shared mostly positive updates about Pirates 6, the overall direction of the series is still a bit murky, and there aren't many solid details about the next installment. However, despite the flaws in Dead Men Tell No Tales, it actually set up a promising sequel that could wrap things up nicely. In the post-credit scene, we get a glimpse of a potential Pirate 6 featuring Elizabeth, Will, and Jack, and the return of the beloved villain Davy Jones, played by Bill Nighy. In this scene, Will and Elizabeth are peacefully asleep when an unseen figure sneaks into their bedroom. The shadow of the figure reveals tentacles, making it clear that it's Davy Jones back for revenge. And just when it seems like it was all a nightmare, the camera pans down to the floor, showing barnacles and water, hinting that Davy Jones really has returned and is set to wreak havoc on Will and Elizabeth in the next movie. When it comes to how Davy Jones could shake things up in Pirates 6, there are plenty of ways to bring this tentacled villain back to life. The franchise has a history of playing fast and loose with death. Just look at Captain Barbossa and Jack Sparrow, who both made comebacks in earlier films. But Davy Jones' return isn't just a gimmick, it could significantly influence the overall story. Having not been seen since the confusing At World's End, Davy Jones stands out as one of the most memorable villains in the series. If he comes back for revenge against Will and Elizabeth, it could shift the focus away from Jack Sparrow, who took center stage in the later sequels, much to the chagrin of critics. By bringing back Will and Elizabeth, Pirates 6 could re-establish them in more meaningful roles and push Jack into the background, allowing for a more balanced narrative instead of relying on Depp's over-the-top antics. This shift would not only make Jack more appealing to fans who found his character tiresome, but also provide a compelling conflict with one of the franchise's best villains. Plus, the tragic love story between Calypso and Davy Jones adds a layer of depth to his character, making him more nuanced than many other baddies in the Pirates of the Caribbean lineup. So why didn't we get that exciting version of Pirates 6 in that post-credit scene of Dead Men Tell No Tales teased? With a solid villain, the return of Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom, and a promise to recapture the magic of the original trilogy, it seemed like a surefire hit. But things didn't pan out that way. First off, Pirates 5 didn't do so hot at the box office. Plus, Knightley and Bloom had other commitments that made it tricky for them to return. Then, you have Johnny Depp's legal troubles, which created more hurdles. And the original trilogy director, Gore Verbinski, wasn't interested in jumping back into the series either. All these factors piled up and pretty much killed the project. There were other ideas for Pirates 6 tossed around, like Margot Robbie's female-led reboot, but those fizzled out too. After the 5th movie didn't perform well, the direct sequel that Dead Men Tell No Tales hinted at was never seriously on the table. This sequel could have fixed a lot of the issues that longtime fans had with where the franchise was heading, but with so many obstacles in the way, it just wasn't meant to be. Now, the future of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is still a bit murky, even though the post-credit scene gave fans a glimpse of a promising, yet ultimately unrealized future. While the hint of Davy Jones at the end of Pirates 5 had fans buzzing back in 2017, it sadly feels like just another post-credit tease for a sequel that may never come. It's frustrating because there have been plenty of post-credit scenes that build up excitement only to go nowhere, and Bill Nighy's return as Davy Jones is one that'll sting the most if it doesn't lead to anything, especially given the long and rocky road of developing Pirates 6. Disney has had a pretty rough history with these kinds of teases, especially in the MCU, where they've become infamous. But they're not the only studio guilty of this. Take Charlie's Angels, for example. Its post-credit scene introduced stars like Ronda Rousey, Haley Steinfeld, and Lily Reinhart for a franchise that never got off the ground because the sequel was scrapped. Another big letdown was Power Rangers, which teased the Green Ranger in its final moments. But with Hasbro now planning a complete reboot of the franchise, fans will never get to see that sixth Ranger in the universe of the 2017 movie. It's a real bummer when these exciting setups lead to dead ends. Even with all the recent positive buzz about Pirates of the Caribbean 6, I can't help but keep my expectations in check regarding the franchise's future. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer has shared some hopeful updates about the film's script, saying it's almost ready and should be finished in about a month. He seems optimistic, suggesting that if the script turns out well, Disney might finally give it the green light. It's nice to see some progress, but until Disney officially signs off, I'm not holding my breath. There have been so many mixed reports that it's tough not to feel a bit cautiously optimistic. Back in May 2024, Bruckheimer mentioned that Disney is interested in Margot Robbie's Pirates of the Caribbean film, which was unexpected, since Robbie had hinted it might not happen. It's great that Bruckheimer is pushing things forward, but the future of the franchise still feels as uncertain as ever. He has also talked about 2 Pirates of the Caribbean films in development, one as a direct sequel and another as a reboot. The complicated plans and the declining box office returns from previous films indicate that there are rough waters ahead for both projects. While Pirates of the Caribbean remains a valuable property for Disney, I can't shake the feeling that its appeal might be waning after so many years of slow progress. If the production doesn't pick up speed soon, the franchise risks losing its relevance and diminishing audience interest even further. So while I'm glad to see some movement on Pirates of the Caribbean 6, the slow pace still leaves me a bit worried. Even though Pirates 6 is stuck in development hell, the best way to reboot the franchise could hinge on one key element. There's been a lot of chatter about the cast for the sequel. Some fans think Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow is essential for the series to work, while others believe it's time to move on from him. Margot Robbie's involvement in Pirates 6 seemed like an exciting new direction for some, but the cancellation of that project raised concerns for others. The debate over which actor could save the franchise and what casting choice could spark new interest has been ongoing. However, all this talk often distracts from the bigger issues facing the series. While Jerry Bruckheimer's updates about Pirates 6 have been somewhat hopeful, the lack of any casting news hasn't eased worries that the next film might fall into the same traps as the previous ones. The original success of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise didn't rely on huge budgets or big-name stars, but on something simpler yet harder to replicate. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop.